Hello, everyone. As you can see this evening, I'm going to be talking about ethics in public relations and marketing, and I just wanted to take a brief minute to tell you why I chose this topic. First is in part because of my background. I have my bachelor's in theology and minor in psychology, and ethics and morality has been something that's always kind of intriguing to me. And then also in part because it's important to me as a consumer and also as a professional that ethics are practiced within an organization. And I know that I personally tend to lose respect for a company that acts unethically. While I know there may not be a one-size-fits-all approach to ethics in public relations and marketing, I do believe that we can establish a general understanding of ethics from academic writings, studies, and also real-life examples where the employment of ethics has been utilized. From these, we can conclude that practicing ethicality is both beneficial for an organization and is also a best business practice. The definition I used of ethics is a domain of inquiry, a discipline in which matters of right and wrong, good and evil, virtue and vice are systematically examined. Unlike a movie or a book, the distinction between good and evil, right and wrong, is not so black and white or even really easily identified. When we're talking about the industries of public relations and marketing, practitioners rely heavily on strategic communication and interaction with the publics and stakeholders, which really leaves them open for a number of ethical dilemmas. The messages that these professionals communicate are observed and scrutinized by the local community, the media, etc. And the need for an examination of ethics is relevant, in my opinion, for three main reasons. The first is that studies generally show a negative and mistrustful perspective by publics of the public relations and marketing industries. I, in my paper, examined 3 studies that illustrated in varying ways that the public has a negative view on these industries and also that ethical behavior is important to the publics. The second reason, and as we've examined a lot in the last few weeks of reading, has to do with the age of information and technology. With the emergence of so many social media outlets, practitioners are presented with a new problem. Social media does not have the gatekeepers of traditional media and does not offer editorial oversight. The drastically growing use of social media and blogging has made it necessary for companies to embrace honesty, authenticity, and transparency. Otherwise, they will be quickly found out and will reap the negative effects of unethical behavior. Lastly, it's becoming more clear that socially responsible and ethical organizations receiving legitimacy by their publics are more likely to survive and thrive. We know that organizations must practice ethical behaviors to keep in good relationship with their stakeholders. Public relations practitioners are faced with a difficult challenge of balancing a delicate paradox. They have a fiduciary responsibility to the organization and also a covenant responsibility to the public. Generally, it's valuable for organizations to approach public relations and marketing as human-centric and values-focused, which inherently includes a study of ethics. I really liked one of the quotes that Kotler had written in Marketing 3.0 saying, "Companies must reinvent themselves and shift as swiftly as possible from practicing in formally safe confines," as he had described in Marketing 1.0 and 2.0. One aspect of ethics that has received little attention is management of ethics in public relations. There was a study I read by Li and Chang where respondents agreed upon 5 factors that were involved in cultivating an ethical public relations practitioner. The first is that they're formed by organizational culture that supports ethical behavior. The second is access to a good mentor. Third, the work environment that encourages staff to question decisions. 4, day-to-day professional conduct of the CEO and senior managers. And lastly, day-to-day personal conduct of CEO and senior managers. Their survey of PRSA members also showed that most employees were lacking ethics trainings and organizational ethics guidelines. The authors conclude that the practice of ethics, while guided by leadership, is something that should involve all levels of the organization. But ultimately, leaders and managers act as role models and set an ethical tone for an organization. I examined one organization in my paper, Thanksgiving Coffee Company, which has been identified as being values-focused, human-centric, and ethically and socially responsible. They promote an organizational point of view relating to fair trade, environmental concerns, and other issues related to sustainability. They promise to do business guided by these principles, and then let their publics decide if they fulfill their promise through their actions. Thanksgiving Coffee's communication initiatives and mediums capture the spirit of the company's vision and mission-related policies. They also encourage feedback and dialogue from their publics and encourage participation in their mission, and also asking their publics to perform socially responsible actions. I also examined a model for ethical behavior put out by Carl Batan, and he really described the ethicality illustrated by the Thanksgiving Company in the article that I read. One of his quotes I really liked was, "The ethicality of strategic communication can be analyzed not so much in terms of its content as its process. The relationship it assumes or enforces between the involved parties and the attitudes and values this reflects." So he looks at two foundational concepts of communication. The first is monologic, which he asserts is most used in public relations. It's largely characterized by command, coercion, manipulation. The relationship is really focused on the communicator's purpose, whether that be for enjoyment, profit, or whatever. On the other hand, he talks about dialogic communication, which is focused on the relationship between participants and the attitudes they have towards one another. Those using this approach attempt to generate an atmosphere characterized by authenticity, inclusion, confirmation, presentness, a spirit of mutual equality, and a supportive climate. This form of communication is, for many reasons, more difficult to maintain, but is better situated to create an ethically sound environment within an organization. As I said in the beginning, there's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all approach to ethics within public relations and marketing, but there's a lot of room for investigation of ethics within these fields. It's a relatively new area of study, and a couple questions arose for me. The first is whether or not there could be a universal code that could be adopted by organizations to set an ethical tone to the fields as a whole. There are a lot of organizations that have codes of ethics, and there's a lot of commonality between them, but can a universal code be adopted? And secondly, and I think probably more importantly, how can organizations better educate and train practitioners in the study of ethics and its implications on decision making? There really, hopefully, will be more studies that can delve into this topic in order to provide more empirical data to support the claim of the benefits and importance of ethics within the public relations and marketing industries. Overall, the research and articles I read suggest the need for ethical practices in public relations and marketing, and also illustrated the benefits of ethicality within an organization. Through good ethically based communication and organization, Through good ethically based communication, an organization grounds its legitimacy and gives its publics confidence about the future. I know this is true for me as a consumer, and I hope I always practice this as a professional as well. I just want to say thank you all for a great class. I learned so much from your shared insights and experiences, and I look forward to continuing on this journey with you. Have a great night.